In his youth, the boy spoke an only child's language. His linguistics were vividly synesthetic to sanguine. He learnt to crawl and walk before he settled for ambling, slow and steady, getting ready for this endless unravelling. He'd never once had a fight, hadn't wanted to get hooked. His mirrors were all black, never conscious of how he looked. He stayed up in bed at night with a lamp, his cat and a book, and that solipsism was bliss for this little fool of a took. He mistook competition for a waste of his time. The only thoughts that saw the light of day pervading his mind were those of fantasy, and how he could portray the sublime. In his eyes, jurisdiction was all way out of line. Every lecture was messy, but saving graces were rhymes. Find him pacing back and forth, quietly saying asides, but for his inattentiveness he'd end up paying a price. The world outside, to him, was chaotic and dizzying, full of turbulent purposelessness, a populace busying itself with an endeavour that to him was disfiguring. All this spiralling life was just spinning into oblivion. He heard a lot of wisdom, but none of it gospel. In storms of advice he ducked the ice like a dodgeball. He contemplated suicide, like Camus, but silently, hid his contempt for others and tried to respect their piety. The faith they had in kindness he did sometimes find nice to see, but thought what set the ball rolling had to have happened violently. The kind of feeling that he felt finally growing up was of unsettled melancholy for a system so corrupt. But accompanying that misery was a hope he'd come unstuck, that he might engage in empathy and in the end feel love for the other, or a oneness above, undercover or recovered by the light of the sun. Both his father and his mother at the height of their lungs were screaming, "None of us are flawless, but you are still our son." And so he clung onto all the laws and truths he held dear. He held on to friendships that had weathered the years. He held on to his penmanship and the ink in his tears. He held on to courage, and he held on to fear, the two enact an equilibrium that kept him afloat, that kept him in the stream of people saying, "Let's go." He headed home, on occasion, to say hi to the flock. He saw his parents and theirs, who helped untie all the knots in a sense of identity where the wires were crossed. He learnt his limbs were fingers on the hands of the clock. He learnt to be an adult was to withstand a lot and still stand, but never ever stand still. He learnt to swim with the whales and learnt to swim with the krill. He sent his heart out to Wales and his soul to Hart's Hill. He ate Holy Communion. A Eucharist was his fill, until, well, the present, wherein he still resides, an only child with polyglottism within his sights. He was born one son and heir in a kingdom of minds, and so his brothers and sisters had been a privilege to find.